Now, if you don't know how to become a better leader of you, then you will suffer. You will be a victim. You will be controlled by circumstances. But when you learn how to lead yourself better, here's a simple test. Can you give yourself a simple command and follow through to completion? Can you say to yourself, today I will exercise, and do it? Can you say, today I won't eat blank. Today I won't have a beer. Today I won't this, or today I will this. And can you follow through to completion no matter what? Until you can do that, you won't be able to do very much else, because you won't have self-trust, self-respect, self-confidence. And without that, you are a ship lost at sea that'll be bounded by the oceans, the waves, the currents. But as soon as you can give yourself a command and say, here's what I will do today, here's what I will not do today. And if you can't do it for a day, what about half a day? Can't do it for half a day? What about 1 hour? Can't do it for 1 hour? What about 10 minutes? Not 10 minutes? What about 1 minute?
John, you're very, very welcome to the ScaleX Insider podcast. I really am thrilled to have you on the show today.
It's so great to be with you, Brendan.
Yeah, delighted to have you. I'm really, really looking forward to our conversation. You know, because we've been speaking about this, our vision is to inspire, connect, and enable millions of small to medium-sized enterprises to scale with purpose. So, John, I kick off the show with this question to all of my guests. What does scaling with purpose mean to you?
For me, it's really a function of transferring your passion in a way that connects with people so that you make a difference in their lives.
I love that. I've never had that. That's very succinct and very, very apt. You have scaled quite a number of businesses with purpose. And for those who aren't familiar with your background, I'd love you to share an abridged version of your journey with a number of the key milestones that initially propelled you to founding Remax and to becoming now a globally recognized neuroscience researcher and mindset coach.
Yeah, for me, like many other entrepreneurs, it was a very, very rough start. I left high school in grade 11 because I was told that I would fail in life, and I failed English and math, and my results spoke for themselves. Failed English, failed math. Who fails English and math? Well, I did. And I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. So I started working in a shipping department. Back then, I was making $1.65 an hour, packing boxes, unpacking boxes, packing boxes, unpacking boxes. And as you can imagine, I didn't enjoy it. And some people might, I didn't. And I knew that there had to be something more for me, but I didn't know what. I saw people succeeding all around me, and I didn't know what was the difference between me and them, except for, an education. And I was told that if I didn't get a college degree, I wouldn't amount to much. And I believed that until I met this one man. His name was Alan Brown, and my brother actually introduced me to him. He was playing tennis with this guy, actually coaching him on tennis. And he told Alan Brown that his young brother was getting in trouble and wasn't doing well and was looking for some options for, what to do with his life. And at the time, I was getting actually in trouble with the law because I was doing a lot of illegal things, shall we say. And so I went to meet this man for lunch. And at lunch, he asked me, what are your goals and dreams? And I said, well, I'd like to buy a car. I'd like to move out of my mom and dad's house. And I would like to make more than $1.65 an hour. And he said, well, that's all great, but what are some of your bigger goals and dreams? And I said, I don't have any. And he said, would you do me a favor? And I said, what? And he gave me this document, and it asked a bunch of questions. Fill out the answers to these questions. And I said, okay. And this makes me laugh because the first question, and this is going back some time, the first question was, I was 19 at the time, just to put into perspective. The first question was, at what age do you want to retire? What? I want a job, retire. Like my father was a cab driver, hasn't retired. My mother works as a seamstress. She hasn't retired. We don't know anybody in our family that's retired. The only time we retire is when we die. So I asked him, what am I supposed to put there? And he says, just pick a number. So I said, is 45 okay? And so he said, yeah, put down 45. The second question was, how much net worth would you like to have upon retirement? And I looked at him again, feeling stupid. And I said, excuse me, Mr. Brown, what does net worth mean? And he explained to me what net worth was. And then said, like, where do you want to travel? Who do you want to help? What kind of home do you want? What kind of car do you want? What kind of lifestyle do you want? And I was like writing down Mercedes Benz and flying first class and 4-bedroom home and Italian clothes. I was writing down this ideas from, where? From my imagination. I gave him the document. He looked at it and he said to me, this is actually a really nice lifestyle that you've imagined. I said, I'm going to ask you one question. And your answer to this question will determine whether you achieve every one of these things. And as you can imagine, I was thinking to myself, yeah, one question is going to determine whether I achieve all of these things, a house and a car and jets and retire my parents and travel the world. One question. I was a cocky young lad. And so he leans over and he says, are you interested? Or are you committed to achieving all of these things? I was like, huh? Is this like a trick question? I said, Mr. Brown, am I interested or am I committed? I said, what's the difference? Life changed with this answer. He says, when somebody is committed, he said, when somebody is interested, they do what's easy and convenient. When somebody is interested, they come up with stories and reasons and excuses why they can't or why they shouldn't or why now's not the right time. He said, when somebody is interested, they allow their current circumstances to control their thinking and their behaviors. But when somebody is committed, they upgrade their identity to match their new destiny. They upgrade their beliefs, they upgrade their knowledge, they upgrade their skills, they upgrade their habits, and they become the type of person capable of achieving their goals and dreams. So he leans in again, and my hair on the back of my neck is standing up at this point. He goes, so, young man, are you interested or are you committed? And Brendan, I don't know why, but out of my mouth just came out, well, in that case, Mr. Brown, I'm committed. And he looks at me square in the eye, puts his hand out, he says, in that case, I will be your mentor. And I go, wow, awesome. Thank you. What's a mentor? True story. Shook my hand. And that day, my life changed. One man, one question, one answer changed the entire trajectory of my life. 5 weeks later, I moved from Montreal, where I lived, 500 kilometers away, to Toronto. I got into real estate. I had to borrow the money to get my real estate license. I had to move in with my brother, sleep on his sofa, borrowed his car to go to real estate school, come back every day for 5 weeks. I passed the test, and then I went to work. On commission only, not even $1.65 an hour now. Now it's like $0 an hour, and it's like you eat what you kill. But, he started to teach me how to think. He started to upgrade my beliefs. He has started to show me the skills that I needed, and then had me practice them until I was competent. And my first lessons, first week, 100 phone calls a day, calling people I didn't know with a script that I had to memorize like a Hollywood actor. I was like, holy shit, I hated doing it. I was afraid of rejection. I thought I would fail over and over and over again. You just kept me on the line, kept me on the line, kept me on the line. Within 6 months, I made $30,000, which was $5,000 more than my father had made the whole year. So that was the turning point in my life. And then I started to, flourish from there. So I'll give it back to you so we can take it from there.
Oh, there's so much in this. I read that line in your book, and we're going to get into your book, and I used that with my personal trainer recently because I shared with you I was 49 a number of weeks ago. I wanted to get as lean as I've ever been. And what I realized when I was having the discussion, so I train like your good self, and you're in great shape. Like your good self, I train. I find when I'm feeling good physically, I feel really good mentally. It certainly undergirds my mental state if I'm feeling physically good. And I said, look, I've got a picture here of a guy who went on a 90-day training and nutrition regime, and I think this guy looks great for a guy in his early 50s. And I said, I would love to get to that point. And he set out what was required. And I said, I've just read a line in John's book, and it said, are you interested or committed? And I said, I realize now when you've just outlined what what's required here, I'm interested in looking like that. But right now, I'm not committed. I'm not prepared to take the steps. And it's so, so powerful. I think in life, there's so many of us are interested in wanting the better job, the bigger house, the relationships, all of those things. But actually, when it comes to the commitment, we're lacking that. So it's such a profound question. And hats off to Mr. Brown, your mentor. Before we get into your book and one of your incredible books, in the context of scaling, having scaled now 5 multi-million-pound businesses, I believe, looking back, reflecting back, what are the fundamentals? What do you know now to be true in relation to successful scaling businesses that you're applying in your current business, NeuroGym, that you wish you'd applied back in the other businesses earlier?
Actually nothing except the process has been the same. When we grew Remax, of Indiana to 4.5 billion a year in sales with 1,200 salespeople and 85 offices, it all started off with the same process that I was taught. Is number one, you set a vision for some time in the future, even if you don't know how to achieve it. So you set the vision first. And I was taught that there are, unseen forces in the universe. For example, you cannot see gravity, but you know that gravity exists and it works. You cannot see the electromagnetic spectrum, but the fact that you are seeing and hearing and using electricity shows that it's there. You cannot see air, but we know that we're breathing in air, and it's comprised of hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon, the elements that we cannot see. So we live in this universe of seeing, using our physical senses of hear, see, smell, taste, touch, but there's an unseen universe. And so the first thing that I learned is create the vision that is so big, it scares the shit out of you. That's number one. Then, even though you don't know how to achieve that goal, by the fact that you're setting that vision and you're tuning in your brain, like a radio station tunes into rock and roll, classical music, rhythm and blues, punk rock, or any other type of music. When you set that vision, your brain tunes into that frequency or energy or vibration. That's the metaphysical side of goal achievement. 2, now that you have this vision sometime out in the future, now work backwards from there. So let's say you set a vision for 3 years from now. Great, create a vision, big, grand, bold, audacious. Then say, okay, great. Where would you like to be in a year from now? Now let's make it a little bit more realistic. Well, a year from now, from here to there, I'd like to be over here. Great. Now that you have that, what about 6 months from now? What about 3 months from now? What about just 30 days from now? What can you get started on to move you in that direction? And so now you can go from this vision you create, you have no idea how to achieve, to a 30-day target that you can actually see. So we have the vision, then we set the goals, and then we go into some of the inner game stuff. And you go, well, what would I need to believe in order to achieve that goal? Like, what would I need to believe? I don't believe it now, but what would I need to believe? Great. What knowledge or skills do I need to acquire? Or what knowledge or skills do I need to have on my team? You know, whether it's my trainer, you know, if I'm looking for a health goal, or for my business growth, my marketing, my sales, my management, my technology, like what knowledge or skills are needed to achieve this goal, even though I may not have it. And then we say, okay, I can do that. And today, nobody has an excuse anymore because we have ChatGPT that can do this in less than 90 seconds. 90 seconds is probably 5 times longer than it'll actually take it to answer these questions. But then I would go back and say, okay, what are some of the strategies, things that I could do to achieve my 30-day goals? What are some of the tactics within those strategies? Right? A tactic is what I can do. I'm sorry, a strategy is what I can do. A tactic are the details. So let's say I want to lose, 10 kilos of fat. I say, okay, great. I could exercise, eat better, and sleep better. Those are 3 strategies. Then the tactics would be exercise. Okay, I'm going to go to the gym and do weights 3 days a week. I'm going to walk 3 days a week. I'm going to sleep 7 hours a day. And I'm going to make sure that my caloric intake for breakfast, lunch, and dinner is this. I'm going to watch my macros. So now I have the goal, the strategies, and the tactics. And then I create timelines. Well, when am I going to get this done? And so now I start to put those into my calendar as action steps to take. And now if I can manage the process of planning and then implementing the plan and then tweaking and adjusting, I can achieve any goal I want with vision, goals, right? Beliefs, habits, strategies, tactics, timelines. And then we adjust every single day, no differently than an airplane that leaves Dublin or Belfast on its way to New York is making adjustments all the way along the trip. We as humans make adjustments. We as teams make adjustments based on the feedback. Is it working? Is it not working? Are we going in the right direction or wrong direction? So if you set up the processes, you can achieve just about anything you want. And for anybody who's listening, unless you're trying to colonize Mars or Saturn, everything you want to achieve is readily known and available. You just need to make a decision. Am I committed to achieving the goal I want? Or am I interested? If you're interested, just drop it and save yourself some time and stop disappointing yourself. And if you're committed, there is a path.
There's a certain Mr. Musk who has already decided that his BHAG is to colonize Mars. So we invite our listeners to think of another one. In the context of creating a vision, and I'm smiling as you're stepping through that, because it aligns really beautifully to everything we coach on our ScaleX Accelerator program. We encourage people to go 10 years out, to dream, to then bring that a little bit nearer term, 3 years with a greater pixelation, then define the 3 or 4 or 5 big goals that undergird that vivid vision, and then break that down into objectives and key results, the wonderful methodology from John Doerr. So it's comforting to hear that you've grown multi-million-pound businesses through this process, through this methodology. In relation to the vision, I've found, and certainly those people who come into our community really struggle with actually crafting a vision for the future, because I find that we have almost been conditioned not to dream. At a certain age, we're told that we're fantasists, or we're Walter Mitty characters, and you need to stop this dreaming, get a real job, and knuckle down and work hard, and just be grateful for what you have, and all of those things that we're told. What are like Mr. Brown had asked that incredibly profound question that changed the trajectory of your life. When you are encouraging people to craft that vision for the future, John, what are the kind of 2 or 3 really great questions that break this pattern of thinking that we're conditioned by, that it kind of almost gives them permission to dream and to think big and to get out of their heads in many respects and fantasize about this wonderful vision for the future?
Sure. One of the things that I share with everybody is, were you born, for example, with a self-image or a self-concept or an identity? And everybody says, no. Was any baby, 107 billion humans have walked the face of the earth since the beginning of time. Was any one of them, anyone, just tell me one, was anyone born with a self-image or self-worth or self-esteem? No. Were any of them born with any beliefs, limiting beliefs or empowering beliefs, constructive ones, destructive ones, positive or negative ones? No. Were any of them born with any fear, like any fear? Were any of them born with a fear of failure or a fear of being embarrassed or ashamed or ridiculed or judged? And everybody tells me, no, 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 no. Were any of them born with any knowledge or skill? No. I said, okay. So now here you are, Madam, Mr. Child, and you're giving me these limitations on your dreaming abilities or your imagination. And the question is, why? So are you afraid to dream big because there is a belief that you picked up along the way that is preventing you from dreaming big? I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm not enough of this, I'm too much of that, I was born here, the market's this, the war is that. Like, what is the belief that might be limiting you? And is that belief the truth, or is it something you have discovered to be truthful for you for some reason? Maybe you didn't even think about it as it was being imprinted into your brain. Number two, whenever we are dreaming, we usually have a hard time dreaming outside of our current comfort zone. And the question is why? And that is because we have learned in many cases through our parents or grandparents or teachers or siblings or our friends' parents or our friends or our own experiences that sometimes when you dream too big, you fail. And that means you're a failure. And the question is, does that really mean you're a failure or what you tried failed? So we have these self-concepts when we have unlimited dream ability, imagination, but we have these fears, fear of disappointing ourselves again, fear of disappointing my wife, my husband, my children, my coworkers, the people that are like looking at me as this pillar in the community. So I don't want to disappoint them. So I minimize myself in order to protect my ego for myself. So I could be, fearful of being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, rejected, unloved, disappointed, succeeding and failing, crashing, whatever the case is. So now I'm in a protective mode, and that's preventing me from dream too big just in case. And that, by the way, is part of what I call, Frankie's monster doing what he does, right? I call these the Stein cousins, Frankenstein's monster and Einstein, which we know, represents a little bit of maybe genius and imagination. So I start to break down why they may not. And I look at self-image, self-worth, I look at limiting beliefs, I look at emotions or fears. And then the other one that comes up is, well, I don't know how to achieve that, therefore I'm not going to put that down. And I say, okay, so the lack of the knowledge or skill is causing fear, and that fear is deactivating your motive to take that action. So now you not knowing something, your ignorance is causing you not to dream. Okay, so now we've broken it down to 1, 2, 3, or 4 things. And so then I say, okay, is it possible that your beliefs are nothing more than reinforced patterns in your brain that you didn't have when you were a child, when cells fired together and wired together and they became your default beliefs? What if you could let those go and create and reinforce new empowering beliefs? Would that then give you the courage, to take action? What if we helped you reframe, what what failure is? What if we helped you deal with the emotion of being embarrassed or ashamed or ridiculed or judged, which is directly tied to your self-image? What if we upgraded that so it didn't make a difference what somebody said? Would that be okay? Yeah. Well, what if we could show you an easy path to upgrade your knowledge and skill? Would that give you a little bit more safety and security and comfort? And what if, you could do all of that together faster and easier than ever before? And everybody's like, wow, that would be great. So, well, great. So now let's move you out of a state of ignorance, not knowing how to do it, to a state of knowledge and awareness. And let's help build a blueprint for you to be able to move in that direction. And most people go, okay, that makes sense. And one of the things I use with people a lot as a frame is, and you probably will answer yes to this because I know you're in great shape, but if I ask people, can you jog slowly a marathon right now? Can you put on your running shoes, your sneakers, your shorts, your shirt, whatever, and go jog, 40 kilometers right now? Most people said, no way. I said, well, what if we set that as a vision of you and I a year from now, 1 year from now, we're running across, this race, and we just finished 40 kilometers and we're celebrating, we're high-fiving, we're hugging. Can you see that? And I said, what if we made that commitment? We're going to do that. And then we come back to today and I said, okay, based on where you are right now, I want you to walk every day for 5 minutes for the next week. I want you to eat these foods, don't eat these foods. I want you to have this sleep pattern, this rest pattern, this, taking care of yourself pattern for 1 week. Can you follow that? Yeah. Then next week, we're going to maybe jog for 5 minutes each day. And then the following week, we can start to build on that. Would you develop your confidence muscle? Yes. Would you develop your physical muscles? Yes. Would you develop your emotional, mental muscles if we did that? Yes. Well, imagine 3 months from now, you can jog 5 kilometers. Can you see that if we just practice consistently a little bit of the thinking, the emotions, the behaviors, the sleeping, the eating, the exercise, we can make progress? Yes. Can you see that if we did this for a whole year, you'd be able to slowly jog a marathon if you are committed? Yes, yes, yes. Great. Let's start with that process now.
I'm smiling because I did exactly this back in 2009 when I ran my first marathon, created my visions board. I hadn't ran, I'd always trained with a background in martial arts, but we never actually did any significant running as part of the training. And I remember completing my first 10-kilometer run in March of 2009 as a bet that came from Christmas drinks with some friends to say, what about doing a 10K in March in Belfast? And that then turned into, that run gave me the confidence that, well, I've already got into the habit of training. What would a half marathon look like? Googled for some half marathons, and then inspired me alongside with a friend to run the Dublin Marathon in October 2009. And it was
Stepping stone.
It absolutely created the visions board, had a clear view of what I wanted to achieve, downloaded a plan. It was a Hal Higdon plan, followed the little steps, which was literally, 3 kilometers one day, 5 kilometers another day, all manageable, digestible steps. And it was just a case of follow the plan, and out the other end fell the 42 kilometers. So I love that analogy. You've referenced it a number of times now, John, and your wonderful book, Inner Size. For those who are listening, you'll not be able to see me holding up John's incredible latest book, Inner Size, The New Science to Unlock Your Brain's Hidden Power. I have absolutely defaced this book. I've put notes all over this. I found myself actually highlighting the bulk of it. So, the term inner size, I'm always fascinated. Can you share with our listeners what is inner size?
Yeah. Back when Mr. Brown was, training me, taking me under his wing, every day, you remember that list of when do I want to retire? How much do I want to have upon my net worth? Where do I want to live? What's my home like? All the things that I wanted. Every day, he had me looking at that thing that I wrote, the answers that I wrote. every day I read a set of beliefs that he helped me develop. I am so happy and grateful. My first goal, by the way, I was making $1.65 an hour. Okay, so you can calculate that I was making about $75 a week, $300 a month. That was what I was earning, $300 a month. My first goal, based on him telling me dream big, was $10,000 a month. That's like, I might as well have put, a million. And every day I said, I'm so happy and grateful for the fact that I am now earning $10,000 a month. And when I would read that, I would actually have it written down. I had a whole bunch of like affirmations, and I would put my right finger across it. So I'd send a signal through my nervous system into my brain to activate the brain cells. So I would read it, I would feel it, I'd close my eyes, I'd run my fingers right hand, left hand across it to send a signal through both my hands and my arms into my brain. So every day I would do this. Then I recorded it onto my cassette recorder back then, right? And then when I was driving back and forth from, my home or my apartment to the office, I would listen to my goals. I would listen to my new story. I would listen to the new identity I was creating. I would listen to these things that were not true. And while I was listening to them initially, I'm so happy and grateful that I'm traveling around the world first class, that I am smart enough, good enough, worthy enough, and I am not earning $10,000 a month. I've retired my parents comfortably. I give to the charities of my dream. I drive my Mercedes sports convertible. And I just had this story that was bullshit back then. And in my brain, when I was listening to it for the first 30 days, I would hear this little voice, okay, go, bullshit, that's not true. You're lying to yourself. Stop doing this. I go, no, little voice, quiet yourself. And that's what I call the Frankie's monster. That's like the stealer of the dreams. But I understand more about why that happens today. And so I would just keep doing it. Like I was reading, today, I say to somebody, if somebody gave you a script, Hollywood actor, that you love, or a European actor that you love, gave you a script that says, learn this script. It's 5 minutes long, and I'll give you $1 million to come on set with me to recite this script on camera. I'll give you $1 million. What would you do to memorize the script? Would you read it once, 2 times, 10 times? Would you record it? Would you use your mobile phone to film yourself? Would you research the part? Would you practice it until it became a part of you? Well, of course you would. Well, how is this any different? When you read a script that's Hollywood script, let's say, you've never seen the script. It's a bunch of lies. You're acting a role. Well, why not act a role? Because practice makes permanent patterns. So would you visualize the performance? Would you emotionalize it? Would you see yourself in advance getting an award for it? If you were a Hollywood actor, of course you would. That's your job. Well, if you want to achieve a goal you haven't yet achieved, why not use all the tools to imprint it, impress it into your biocomputer that's worth $100 billion, so that you start to think, feel, and behave in ways that you're not thinking, feeling, behaving right now, because it's outside your comfort zone. Well, a new script is outside of any Hollywood actor's comfort zone, but they have learned a process to become the script, to become the role, so that when you and I go to the theaters, we forget who they really are, and we see them performing, and we get lost in the reality of that moment of they've just taken this role that somebody wrote that they didn't even know about. So I learned this process was strengthening my neuro muscles. So just like exercise strengthens your physical muscles, what if we considered that the self-image is a neuro muscle? What if we considered that your beliefs are neuromuscles? What if we considered habits are neuromuscles? Some are weak, some are strong, some empower you, some disempower you, some are constructive, some are destructive. But since we know that we're not hardwired, we weren't even wired when we came onto the scene, we developed these patterns, we became soft-wired to have these beliefs and self-image and to fear this or fear that. What if I could deliberately evolve myself? What if I could deliberately create new neuromuscles or reinforce ones that are more empowering? So I started thinking, well, God, I've been doing this for 44 years. I've been innercising. So I trademarked the name. I wrote the book. I created an innercise app to help people innercise their self-image and self-worth and self-confidence and sales and leadership muscles in their brain.
Oh, I just love this. I absolutely love this. And it's predicated on the fundamental belief that actually we can deliberately create the life that we want, that life can happen for us. It's not that we become a victim to life happening to us. So I think the vast majority of people are walking around the planet believing, well, these are my circumstances and it's all right for you. This is fine for John. John's living a beautiful life, you know, multiple homes, the cars, the companies, the, you know, the wonderful relationships. That's all right for John, but you know, my life's very, very different from John. And I think that's the belief for many of us that we must start with. I always invite people to understand that there's nobody ever going to knock on their door and say, look, Brendan, when you've got 10 minutes, would you give me that 10 minutes of your time? Because I've got this wonderful vision of your future scripted out, and I'm going to give this script to you. So just whenever you have time, I'm ready to hand it to you. No one's ever going to do that. And what I'm hearing from you, John, is that this starts with you actually creating this. And I love the analogy of the Hollywood movie. You know, you creating your version of the Hollywood movie in terms of you deciding on the script for your life, the script for the best decade of your life, predicated on the fundamental belief that actually you can create the life that you want. You're not a victim of the circumstances that maybe you currently feel you are.
Yeah.
I feel that's so powerful. The revelation in this for me, in all of this work, is the fact that we don't have one mind, we have two minds. And one of those minds is actually an 800-pound gorilla. Can you share with our listeners what you mean by that, John?
Yeah. So back in the early 80s, right around the time you were born, you know, Bob Proctor lived in Toronto, Canada, where I lived, and I went to see one of his events, and I was a 20-year-old, 22-year-old kid in the audience. I was invited by somebody in the real estate community. And he started to talk about this conscious mind, you know, that everybody has, where you can choose what you want, you can imagine, you can say, I want this, not that, here's why. You can use your willpower, you know, part of your conscious mind to like have tenacity and resolve to get through stuff. I was okay, great, I got it. But then there's this subconscious mind that doesn't know the difference between something real or imagined. It is the part of you that becomes trained and conditioned to just implement whatever it believes. It implements habits automatically. It just controls 97% of your thoughts, emotions, and behavior. And it controls all of this, I've later found out, as a way to conserve energy. And it's based on the neuroscience law of automaticity. So anything that we repeat or anything that is repeated to us, it automates to simplify the process without effort to conserve energy. That's just the brain, the way it functions. And so is there a part of us, you know, I call it the 800-pound gorilla that controls most of the show? And the answer is yes. However, you can use your conscious mind to understand and then direct the unconscious, right? And so it's no different than, you know, if you get on, you know, the back of an elephant or you get on the back of a horse, you know, these giant animals, if you don't lead them, they will lead you. Right? But a horse will listen to somebody who commands the horse. And an elephant can be trained as well. And so we can tame the gorilla. We can actually train the gorilla, our own gorilla. Nobody else's, just our own. We can rewire it, retrain it, recondition it so that it works for us as part of our team. And one of the things I like to have people think about is imagine your favorite band, U2 maybe, right? Or an orchestra, right? Every band, every orchestra has a leader. There's different band members, right? Well, what's the leader's responsibility? Leader's responsibility, first, is to choose the right members, but it's to get the members to play in harmony and in concert, otherwise known as coherence. Well, you, my friend, you are the orchestra or band leader. And you have different members of your internal band. But in many cases, you haven't learned how to lead them. So they are running the show. So you are not being a very good conductor or leader yet. But if you can get your Frankie's monster to do what his role is, which is unbelievable, and you can use your Einstein, and you can use other members of your band to do what they're supposed to do, then you can get in flow, in concert, in harmony with just about anything you choose. Now, if you don't know how to become a better leader of you, then you will suffer. You will be a victim. You will be controlled by circumstances. But when you learn how to lead yourself better, like here's a simple test. Can you give yourself a simple command and follow through to completion? Can you say to yourself, today I will exercise, and do it? Can you say, today I won't eat blank, today I won't have a beer, today I won't this, or today I will this? And can you follow through to completion no matter what? Until you can do that, you won't be able to do very much else, because you won't have self-trust, self-respect, self-confidence. And without that, you are a ship lost at sea that'll be bounded by the oceans, the waves, the currents. But as soon as you can give yourself a command and say, here's what I will do today, here's what I will not do today. And if you can't do it for a day, what about half a day? Can't do it for half a day? What about 1 hour? Can't do it for 1 hour? What about 10 minutes? Not 10 minutes? What about 1 minute? How do you build any muscle? A little bit at a time. You don't go to the gym, you don't go running 10 kilometers on your first day, usually. So we reduce it down to the ridiculous to start building trust, self-trust. We don't ask ourselves, right, to let's take on this giant task when you haven't mastered little tasks. When you keep lying to yourself, when you keep starting and stopping, then, are you a finisher or a starter? Like when you teach yourself that I will complete what I start, you start to build this incredible muscle that when I say something, I can depend on me. That's called self-trust. And when you have self-trust, you follow through. One of the things I have all my students do that are in any of our programs, at the end of every year, I choose something hard to change. So 3 years ago, I went from brushing my teeth with my right hand to 100 days of left hand. That was 3 years ago. I haven't gone back now because I can't, because now it's the darn thing is a habit. This past year,
I did exactly the same, by the way. I've added in then this year pistol squats while I'm brushing my teeth with my left hand.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So this year, I removed all refined sugar for a year. I removed all social media for 100 days, but I already blew past that. I don't want to go back. I removed all news and media for 100 days. I said from January 1st for 100 days, and I still haven't gone back. Now, let me show you something that'll blow your mind about time. People go, I don't have time. I said, bullshit, okay? I gave up 1 hour a day of social media and 1 hour a day of news, right? Agree? That's 60 hours a month, right? 60 hours a month. That is 720, I'm sorry, that is 72 hours. I'm sorry, 60 hours times 12, 720 hours I now bought back for anything else I want to achieve. Don't tell me you don't have time, right? So if you think about 720 hours, 60 hours a month, okay, of productive time back, because it was in the morning and in early evening, 60 hours a month, okay, is how many weeks? It's a week and a half extra every month.
Yeah,
A week and a half. What if I said to you, you can get a week and a half of your time back with one small, a week and a half extra to write your book, to get in shape, to find your lover, to have a great relationship, to be a better mama, be a better dad, start a business, grow your business with one decision. Stop this, stop that, start this.
Uh, we're so aligned in this. I decided quite a number of years ago to gift myself an extra hour in the morning by getting up 1 hour earlier, which meant then that I give up what I then framed as a junk hour in the evening, because I found that the hours after 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock were typically kind of lying on the sofa, flicking through the TV, uh, maybe scrolling, maybe even opening up the laptop again. It was just junk. It was non-productive. The gift of that hour in the morning, as you've pointed out, John, I gifted myself 365 hours, new hours in the year, which is essentially 10 working weeks, 10 working weeks dedicated to myself. And all your work's
Yep.
very much aligned to our approach, which is why I was so thrilled about you coming on, because our approach is very much lead self first before you lead others, before you lead an organization. And I think of the wonderful quote from the other wonderful Stein there, Einstein, logic will get you from A to B, but imagination will get you everywhere. And that, coupled with, as you're chatting, I'm thinking of the quote from Carl Jung and his incredible work, that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So what you're doing in your work, you're helping people to call out this 800-pound gorilla. People are walking around with this in the shadow of this gorilla and they don't know it's there. Your work helps people identify it and get that gorilla working for them, not against them. Now, some of the things that the gorilla can do to prevent us scaling ourselves, scaling our teams, and ultimately scaling an organization is amplify kind of fear. You called out like 6 mental barriers that SME leaders face when scaling. You haven't labeled it kind of SME leaders face when scaling, but 6 mental barriers we all face when we're trying to scale ourselves. Fear, excess stress, limiting beliefs, lack of emotional control, disempowering habits, a negative mindset. You've mentioned, a number of really practical things there that we can do to overcome those, which is essentially just make this contract with ourselves to commit, whether it be 1 minute, 10 minutes, 1 hour, to something that we want to do, and just honor that commitment. What other practices can we integrate as leaders into our lives to help overcome these mental barriers that are so profoundly disempowering for so many leaders? I shared with you before, like, it's less than 0.5% now of small to medium-sized businesses are actually achieving scale, and lack of ambition of the leader is cited as the single greatest impediment as to why leaders don't scale. Now, you and I both know that leaders don't lack ambition. That's essentially a mindset. When you lift the lid on that, you've already called it out. One part of that's ignorance, and the other part, I feel, is all of these other elements, these 6 mental barriers. So what can we do? I'm always keen that when people take time out to spend kind of 60, 70, 80 minutes listening to podcasts, they should have a practical takeaway. You've delivered so much value already in this podcast. What else can our listeners do to begin this process of inner sizing,
Yeah.
developing their neuromuscle?
when I was driving to the gym this morning, I had this thought. I don't even put the radio on. And here was a thought that was a little bit unique. I've not had this thought before. I said, if I was dead, and somehow I would be thinking about my life, what do I wish I would tell my living person, me now, to do more of or to do less of? I'm dead, so don't worry about it. Like, I'm dead. And that lends itself back to something that I discovered many, many years ago. I'm going to come back to that in just a second, because I want to address something you said is leaders lack ambition. I don't find that to be true. I find that many people have ambition, but it is limited because of fear. So they play small as a protective mechanism. But if you said, let's leave the possibility of you failing aside. Let's leave, fear aside. Let's leave that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, or that you're limited by this or that aside. If you could just dream, and failure was not a possibility, what would you love to trade your life for, so that when you, let's say we're just before death, you would think back on what you did and you would go, yeah, what a fucking great journey, right? Like, what would have to happen for you to have that reaction just before you went and you died? Like, what would you have created? What would you have built? How would you have loved? Who would you have helped? What contribution would you have made? What impact? Like, there's no failing. Just remember, there's no failing. What impact would you have? What influence would you have on your kids, on your spouse? When you looked in the mirror, having had that impact and influence, what would you say to that person in the mirror? Come from that place for just a few minutes and write all this down. And so that's one frame. The other frame is, imagine, and I'm not religious, but imagine if before you came, to the scene on this beautiful blue planet, imagine that God was having a conversation with all the potential candidates to put on this beautiful blue planet, Earth, the only place that we're aware of that harbors this kind of life. And if God said, hey, everyone, take out a sheet of paper, and I want you to tell me, why should I choose you to put on my beautiful blue planet? Because I've only created one of those in this universe, in this galaxy, only one of those. Why should I choose you? If I put you there, what will you do to contribute over there? And I want you to sit down and write this out. Oh, God, if you chose me, I would do this and I would do that and I would overcome this and I would conquer this and I would help this and I would give this and I'd be like the best model version of this human that you're going to put there. And God said, okay, you're already there. I already chose you. Do that. I already chose you. You're already there. I already chose you out of 250 million other candidates. Okay, I chose you. Stop fucking around and start doing what you're there to do. And so I learned many, many years ago, stop asking yourself whether you are worthy of that big vision and goals, and start asking yourself, is that big vision and goals, the impact, the influence, the love, the kindness that you're there to give, is it worthy of your life? It's so precious. Life is so precious, and we freaking piss it away as if, these 1,440 minutes today are coming back, or these 86,000 seconds are coming back, or these thousands of hours are coming back. It's like gone in a flash. So trade your life for what will make you feel proud of you. Trade your life for what will make you feel what a fucking great journey that was. The ups, the downs, the failures, the successes, the embarrassment. What a journey. Do that. Stop minimizing yourself. Stop playing small. Because before you know it, you'll wish you hadn't.
I feel like you're speaking to me, John, here. I need, I need to, I need to revisit our own vision. That is so incredibly profound.
And sorry for swearing. Sometimes I get a little
No, I look,
overextended superlatives.
I love the passion and
Oh,
energy and conviction in how you deliver the message. You are clearly a man who doesn't look like it, but has spent 63 years on this planet, who has witnessed so much. Uh, you are appealing to people. You're because you know what can be, and this is the message here. You know, you are walking around currently with a script that likely doesn't serve you. That is a script for a much smaller version of the movie, the script that you could play out, but you're choosing to follow that script. And so I absolutely love and revere the conviction in which you're making the appeal to people. You alluded to it right at the outset. We heard in your wonderful bio, you starred in The Secret. Now, for people who are aware of The Secret, they might think, well, it's a little bit abstract. But in your experience, John, do you find that the universe, call it what you wish, conspires to support you whenever actually you create this wonderful vision for the future?
just before you asked me that question, I grabbed two things that are on my desk. This right over here, you know what that is?
No, I can't. Is it shells? Is it?
It's an acorn.
An acorn.
So if this is an acorn, where is the oak tree?
There is none because the acorn's inside that glass bottle.
Okay, but if I took this acorn outside of the bottle and I planted it in the soil, where is the oak tree?
Wherever you.
What do we know about this acorn? What do we know? I'll show you the butterfly in just a moment. But what do we know about the acorn? Is this energy? Is the glass energy? Is the glass made up of energy? I know it appears solid,
Yeah.
but is it made up of energy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's molecules that make up the glass.
Yeah.
Is the acorn made up of energy?
Yeah.
Is my hand made up of energy?
Yeah.
This is hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon coalesced, okay, into the sentient being called a human. Under an electron microscope, you would see my body vibrating, my cells vibrating, my atoms vibrating, the electrons, the protons, the neutrons, the leptons, all vibrating packets of energy called quanta. So where is the oak tree? I have the acorn. I have the seed. Where is the oak tree? So let's go through the motion. I plant the seed in the soil. The seed is vibrating. Does the seed create roots?
Yes.
Do the roots pick up water and nutrients
Yes.
to increase the amplitude of the vibration of the acorn?
Yes.
And then it sprouts, right, out of the ground. And then the sun, through a process of what? It's called photosynthesis, gives the plant chlorophyll, which is more food for it to grow. Where is the oak tree? It's in the universe. The acorn, okay, has the seed in it. What was this before it was a butterfly?
Caterpillar.
And did it always have the ability to become a butterfly?
Yes.
But it had to go through the process called metamorphosis. It had to change from a caterpillar to a butterfly. The butterfly was always there. Everybody, your thoughts, your vision is the seed. Hold on to that. Increase the amplitude of vibration, your emotions, your energy in motion increases that amplitude of vibration so that people can feel how excited you are about that vision you want to grow. People who don't resonate in it will not resonate, just like people who don't like this song or this band doesn't resonate with this song or this band. So get the vision clear. This doesn't have, okay, the seed for a rose. It's a freaking oak tree. So you and I get to choose the vision. That sets off the vibrational frequency. Then we get emotionally attached to what is it that why are we doing this? Well, because this is what I'm here to do. This is the impact and influence I want to have while I'm here on this beautiful blue planet. So then we say, okay, that's the vision. Okay, this is why I'm going to be here to do this. I'm going to get excited about it. And I'm going to say, great, now on this blue planet, there are things we have to do. And whether you want to solve a 100,000-pound, solution for your business or $1 billion, okay, the strategies to achieve these are already here. And everything, hold on, and everything in between. You want 500,000, you want, 5 million, you want 100 million or $1 billion. All the strategies, tactics, timelines, tools, resources, and people, they're already here. So are you in harmony? Are you in resonance with that which you want to trade your very life for? And can you learn how to regulate your mindset? Train it to focus, right? To concentrate on what it is that you want. Can you learn how to regulate your emotions, the energy in motion? There's only 6 core emotions. Most people have no idea that fear could be their biggest friend and they could use it as fuel for their success. But they allow it to be like diesel or gas in a car that you flood, and then the car won't go anywhere. So it controls them. They're victims of ignorance versus learning how to be victorious with this $100 billion brain and the ability to control this being called a body to do the things that we're capable of doing on this planet right now, because they just haven't taken that 10 minutes a day to learn how.
You have this lovely little acronym in your book called AIA, and everything that you're speaking about is, AIA. It's awareness that you can actually create and deliberately create a vision for the future. If you're intentional about stepping towards that, then what we're hearing, the actions that you need to take will be obvious to you, and it's really about just taking that first step. What I've certainly found in my own experience is that for lots of leaders, if there are 10 steps from getting from here to the summit of Scale Everest, as we call it, and we can only see 3 of those steps, many leaders don't want to take it unless they can actually see all of the steps. But what I've found is actually if you take the first step, the second step, by the time you reach the 3rd step, the 4th, 5th, and 6th step are revealed to you. But it actually takes courage to just take that first step and entrust that the other steps will be shown to you. Does that resonate with you, John?
Yeah. If you go on your car and you're going 100 kilometers away and it's pitch black at night, and you turn on your headlights, right? And you see, 100 meters in front of you. By the time you get to 100 meters, you see 100 meters more. You don't have to see the entire path. We just need to see a little bit at a time. But what happens for some people is if they can't see the whole thing, then fear sets in. And because their brain is wired for safety and security, which I get, right? But now we have to see with our inner eye of understanding, right? We have to go to another faculty of mind to say, I can see without my physical eyes. No differently than sometimes we walk into a room, and we know something is wrong, but nothing's been said. And you go, well, hey, what's going on? And people go, nothing. And you go, come on, I know something's up. What's going on? They go, nothing. How do you know? Well, I'm just sensing something. We have other than, the hear, see, taste, smell, and touch senses. And so part of what we have to do is understand. That's why earlier I said we have to understand there are forces at work that dwarf okay, what we have learned in our traditional upbringing in schools and our religious-based, conditioning in some cases. And when we start to understand the humbleness of how powerful we are, like, oh my God, like, wow, in gratitude, and then in learning how I can achieve, help, do me, like me, the kid, the gal, the guy who failed, the guy who's afraid of his own shadow, the guy who feels that I'm not good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough, like me. Yeah, you. So you just need to start having a different healthy respect for what you are and what created you. And then learn the tools. You have tools to use that are just, I mean, insane, insane. But this is a function of discovery, a function of being open-minded, a function of being willing to learn and grow.
As I'm listening to you, I just cannot believe that you failed English as a kid. You speak so incredibly articulately and with such wonderful tonality and expression. It's so powerful. So you're a model of what you're teaching. You really are. It's wonderful to see somebody who's actually modeling what they're speaking about, because I think there's a lot of people out there who aren't. And what I encourage people to do, go to John's wonderful book. I want to be respectful of your time, John. I would love to invite you back for a part two of the podcast, because this has just been phenomenal. You give so many exercises in this wonderful inner size book, including breathwork techniques, which I'm a huge fan of. Before we go into the formal close, is there anything that we haven't covered in the context of leading self first before you lead others, before you lead an organization, in relation to scaling small and medium-sized businesses, that you would like to share with our listeners before we move into the close?
That's probably a couple things, and I do have a hard stop in probably about 60 seconds.
Oh shit!
So I think
Well, I want you to share them with the listeners 3 timeless takeaways.
Yeah, so timeless takeaways. So let's talk about business for a moment. In business, no matter what business you're in, you have to learn, or somebody on your team must master, generating leads and converting leads into paying customers. That's, the traffic times conversion equals revenue. So if you focus a little bit every day on prospecting, lead generation, and learning how to convert into paying customers, you'll be able to solve 95% of all your other problems, because you have cash. And cash is fuel, like gasoline is fuel for a car. Cash is fuel for a business, money. So solve that. Number 2, every day, take 5 minutes to review your vision, your mission, and your goals, and your why. Why are you doing this? Why must you do this? And then number 3, choose what I call our 3, it's called HIHI. So 3 high impact activities every day, and back those up with 3 high income producing activities every day. At the end of the year, you've got 1,000 high impact activities you've done and 1,000 high income activities you've done. You will never have to worry about whether you can scale a business or not. Just follow those formulas.
Brilliant. John, if people want to find out a little bit more, connect with your work, how best to connect with you?
Thanks, Brendan. So I'm all over social media. Instagram, we post. I've got a ton of YouTube videos. Go to johnassaraf.com. I've got some just awesome neuroscience-based articles on habits and perspective and beliefs. And then just sign up for one of our free events that I do all the time.
John, I really want to thank you for the incredible energy that you've brought to today's show, the wisdom that you've shared, the passion in which you've delivered it. continue doing your wonderful work. I love what you do. I followed you for years. It's been a real privilege to have you on the show today. I wish you every success with everything you're doing. Take care.
Thank you, Brendan. Great being on here, and it's been an absolute joy.